She feared hearing the wrong voice at the wrong time. For Ilara, the world existed in a state of perpetual silence, at least digitally. Her phone, a sleek black rectangle, was a silent sentinel, its ringer permanently disabled, its vibrations switched off. It was a choice, born not of a desire for peace, but from a deep, gnawing anxiety that a single, unexpected ring could shatter her carefully constructed reality. It had been 5 years since the accident. 5 years since the night that split her life into a stark before and after. Before, her phone was a symphony of life. It buzzed with notifications from friends, chirped with messages from her family, and rang with the deep, warm voice of Liam, her fiancé. His calls were her favorite melody. "Hey, you," he'd say, his voice a comforting hum that could smooth out the roughest of days. But the after was silence. The night of the crash, her phone had rung, and rung, and rung. It was a paramedic, then a police officer, then Liam's mother, her voice fractured with a grief so profound it had traveled through the phone line and broken something inside Ilara too. That was the last time her phone had ever made a sound. She couldn't bear it. Every potential ring held the echo of that night, the ghost of a voice she'd never hear again. So, she lived in a world of scheduled check-ins and missed calls she'll return on her own terms. Her friends learned to text first. Her family knew to email. It was inconvenient, isolating, and utterly necessary for her survival. Her thumb would hover over the volume button, a tremor running through her hand. She'd imagine it. A ringtone. Any ringtone. And then, the memory would flash headlights, shattered glass, the wail of sirens. Her heart would hammer against her ribs, and she'd quickly lock the screen. The silence a fragile shield. One Tuesday, while tidying her small apartment, a box tumbled from the top of her closet. It was a time capsule of the before, filled with photo albums and old letters. Tucked at the bottom was Liam's old phone, a relic from a time before sleek screens. She hadn't been able to part with it. On a whim she couldn't explain, she found its charger and plugged it in. After a few moments, the screen flickered to life. His old lock screen photo appeared, a picture of the two of them, beaming on a beach at sunset. A wave of grief, as fresh and sharp as it was 5 years ago, crashed over her. She swiped it open. He'd never used a password. The old messages were there, a digital tapestry of their love story. Jokes, plans, declarations of love. Then she opened his voicemail. There was one message, saved. Her breath hitched. The date stamp was from the afternoon of the accident. She had never known it existed. Her finger trembled as she pressed play. It wasn't Liam's voice. It was hers. "Hey, you." Her own voice, bright and full of life, echoed from the small speaker. "Just calling to say I'm running about 15 minutes late, save a masaya. Love you." A pause, then a soft click. Ilara sank to the floor, the phone clutched in her hand. She had called him. He was waiting for her. The accident happened while he was waiting. The narrative she had clung to for 5 years, that a random, cruel twist of fate had stolen him. In its place, a more complex, painful truth began to form. She hadn't caused the accident. She knew that logically. A drunk driver had, but her lateness, that small, insignificant delay, had placed him on that specific stretch of road at that exact, fatal moment. The guilt was a physical weight, pressing down on her, stealing the air from her lungs. The silence she had cultivated for 5 years was no longer a shield. It was a K. It had kept her from processing, from healing. It had locked her in a single, looping memory of loss, without context, without the full story. That night, for the first time in 1,825 days, Ilara slept with Liam's old phone on the nightstand beside her. The next morning, she did something she hadn't done in half a decade. She picked up her own phone. With a deep, shuddering breath, she slid her finger across the screen, navigating to the sound settings. She scrolled through the list of ringtones, each one a potential future. She didn't choose a loud, jarring tone, but a soft, gentle melody, like wind chimes. She then went to her contacts and found her mother's number. She stared at it for a long moment, her heart a frantic drum solo in her chest. Then, she pressed the call button. The phone rang in her ear, a foreign sound. When her mom answered, her voice laced with surprise and concern, Laura didn't have the words to explain. She just said, "Hi, Mom. I just wanted to hear your voice." Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't just tears of grief. They were tears of release. Hearing her mother's voice, real and live and full of love, wasn't a painful echo of the past. It was an anchor to the present. The silence hadn't protected her. It had imprisoned her. It had amplified the echoes of what she'd lost. But a voice, a real, living voice on the other end of the line, had the power to pull her back. Over the next few weeks, Laura began to let the world back in, one call at a time. She called her best friend, who cried with relief upon hearing her voice unexpectedly. She called her brother. She even answered a call from an unknown number, her heart pounding, only to find it was a simple marketing call. She laughed, a genuine, rust-free laugh. The fear was still there, a quiet hum in the background, but it no longer had control. She learned that healing wasn't about erasing the past or forgetting Liam. It was about integrating his memory into her life in a way that didn't stop it from moving forward. It was about understanding that love and grief could coexist. That joy could be found even in the after. One day, her phone rang with a wine chime melody. It was a friend, calling to see if she wanted to go for a walk in the park. As Alara said yes, the sun streamed through her window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. She realized she wasn't just accepting an invitation. She was accepting life. The phone in her hand was no longer a harbinger of bad news or a monument to her loss. It was just a phone, a tool to connect, to share, to live. She still missed Liam with an ache that would likely never fade, but she was no longer afraid of the ringing. She was ready to hear whatever voice came next, knowing her own was strong enough to answer. Thanks for watching. If you or someone you know is struggling with grief or mental health, please know there's support available. You can reach out to a crisis hotline or a mental health professional. Taking that step is a sign of strength. We'll see you in the next video.